What is interleaving practice and how do you apply that into your piano practice? That is the topic for today. Hi, I'm Christina Lee. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, I would love for you to subscribe. And if you are new to piano, you're looking for a course to help you step by step, or if you're coming back from a break and you really also want someone to help you remember all the important steps of re-engaging with the piano, I have the perfect course for you. It's called Simple and Beautiful Piano for Adult Beginners, and I've been getting some amazing feedbacks from my students of how much they love the pace of the course and the pieces I wrote just for this course for beginners to play and enjoy right away. So please check it out. The basic concept of interleaving practice is mixing up things while you practice, as opposed to block practices. When you do block practices, you spend a lot of time doing one thing. Maybe for half an hour, you're gonna do your scales, and then you're gonna do another half an hour of just working on a piece, and then you might do another half an hour of something. Those are block practices. But in interleaving practice, you would be spending lesser time on each thing that you do, and then you would kind of jump around. Like you might do scales for like 5 minutes, and then you're gonna spend another 10 minutes working on a passage of a section, or just going through pieces that you know, or songs that you know, and then you come back to your scales and you're gonna do your scales in staccato instead of legato. So you start mixing up things, and because you're jumping around in shorter segments, you might actually hit more things. And the reason this is effective is very simple. It's because the hardest thing for our brain to do is to recall something new. Like if you have to start doing your accounting, okay, that's a bad example. But if you haven't done it and you have to do it, bookkeeping or something, budgeting, you have to start it. And usually it's the starting that's the hardest part, right? Once you're in it, it becomes easier and it becomes usually more enjoyable. But because you're doing the hardest thing, which is to recall it, you are building a stronger memory of what you're working on. And it stops your brain from engaging less. Because once you're in your practice and doing the same repetition over and over again, sometimes your mind starts drifting a little bit. You're just not as engaged. So by leaving the practice earlier and doing something else, you're just using that maximum engagement time for practicing that particular thing as much as possible. And before your brain fatigues with doing the same thing or gets less engaged, you go to another thing. And because it's new and you have to put more effort into like bringing it back, recalling it, your brain gets engaged more intensely again. And as you're doing this, you're recalling that one thing from many different contexts. Like you're working on your scales, and then now you're gonna work on your piece. Next time you're working on memorizing something, and then you're gonna work on that piece. So every time you practice, you're bringing it back out within a different context, and that makes the memory and learning more effective and stronger because you've done it in so many different contexts already. And another reason interleaving is so powerful is because it's spacing out what you're learning. Again, it goes back to the concept of recalling it. When your brain worked on something and then it leaves it and it comes back to it, it has to work a little bit harder than if you were continuously working on it. So by spacing out your practice, your brain has to work harder, and that means you're gonna get more effective and efficient in your learning. And because of the effort you put in, your learning is gonna be more powerful. So in that way, you can have a few things that you're working on, but instead of like doing 20, 20, 20 minutes, you can be like 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and then 10 minute, 10 minute, 10 minute, as an example. I also think it's a really great idea to actually leave physically, like work on something for 10 minutes, leave and do something else, do your dishes, come back, work on it for another 15 minutes, go back to something else, and then come back to it. Especially when you're intensely working on one thing, just physically leaving and coming back and changing, not just into a different piano activity, but like something totally different, can be very powerful as well, because every time you have to sit down, it takes a lot of effort to get there and conjure up the thing that you're working on in terms of your music. So I want to just talk about how it might work out for a beginner student. As a beginner, you should have multiple pieces that you're working on and you're memorizing, because usually the pieces are quite short. You know, sometimes it takes 30 seconds to play a piece. Sometimes it takes a minute. Sometimes it takes 2 minutes. It hardly really goes beyond 3 minutes when you're learning beginner pieces. So I suggest that you have a playlist of your pieces. If you can have 5 or 6, if you can have a dozen things that you are playing, that's great. I suggest that you play through these every day, and your 5 minute can be just working on one piece. And then you realize that, oh, that one spot is still not working out. So you're going to spend, 3 minutes working on that, and then change it up. You're going to feel like you're leaving kind of in the middle of it. You haven't really finished it, but that's okay. It's the repetition of the interleaving accumulated over time that's going to really make a difference. So you can do that. You can start with the piece that you love, spend 5 minutes or even 3 minutes, and then do a warm-up of some sort. You're gonna do your 5-finger scales, because it's really important to just really know those scales really well. So you go through all of it in legato. All 12 keys, okay? And that only takes 2 minutes or 3 minutes. And then you're gonna spend maybe 10 minutes working on a new piece that you're working on. And that's going to take a shorter time, right? Like you're reading, or it can be a sight reading thing where you're, where is that? Okay. And then after that, maybe you go back to your scales. But this time, you're going to do something different. You're going to say, well, I'm going to do a contrary motion. And I'm going to do it in staccato. But maybe this time I'm going to pay more attention to my technique rather than just the notes. After that, you go to another piece. In one sitting, let's say you're going to work on 2 or 3 pieces that you've learned in the past. So you can go to like piece number 2 that you've learned before, and you work on it for 5 minutes. And after that, maybe you go back to your new piece that you were working on in terms of your notes, and you just kind of check the notes, check in. At the end, maybe you just go back to your very first piece that you played. That's a piece that you kind of know quite well, but you worked on a spot, and you can just check in and see how that went. So for especially beginners, I think interleaving practice is very useful and powerful, because you should have a lot of little things that you're working on. On top of that, you can also work on your ear training. You can also work on just rhythm practices. And like rhythm practices, don't do 30 minutes of it. Do like 5 minutes, and then do another 3 minutes later maybe. So unfortunately, we have to continuously make ourselves a little bit uncomfortable to be more efficient and more effective in learning. Learning doesn't really happen when we are just relaxed. And being relaxed and enjoying is important too, of course. But learning takes a special zone. And if you can stay in that zone, of growth and effort and challenging yourself a little bit, hopefully the next day you're going to be able to enjoy what you're doing a lot more. So I hope this all makes sense. I hope you try it out. Please let me know how it goes.